OMG Zuz, boys, girls, in between us, welcome back. It is time for another podcast. It's time for another Codebot Enabled. This time I brought with me the lovely Malimbar. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm good. Yourself?
It's morning. We're as good as we can be for an Australian Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Nairman, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty okay. How about you?
As I said, it's morning, it's cold here, it's winter for us, so we're getting by. Yes, we are good, is what I'm trying to say. It's been another week, it's been Comic-Con week this week, which means we've got a lot of the geek news that you guys love to listen to, like to hear our opinions on, and isn't the internet all about opinions? So kicking that off, we're going to start with what is obviously my favorite topic of the week, which is going to be Street Fighter. This week, Street Fighter V got a new character announced for it. It is Mr. Ken Masters, or Masters, depending on whether you're too American or not. Now, kind of the interesting thing about this was, we can get into a breakdown of his abilities and whatnot later, but kind of the big contentious point around the character was that obviously it's a new game. There are new, whenever you get new games, you obviously want to see little tweaks to characters here and there in terms of their appearance. And a lot of people are getting the impression that Ken didn't get hit by the ugly stick, he got the whole freaking tree. What do you think about that, Mal?
Well, I mean, you know my opinion about Ken to start with, which isn't all that great.
I do know your opinion, but you tell the people at home what your opinion is of Ken.
Look, I mean, to me, Ken is, like, he was my total frustration in the last two Street Fighter games that I played, because he is the ultimate in cheese, and especially after seeing his moveset and the fact that, hey, they've just given him a dive kick, plus his shuriken, plus his fireballs. Yeah, I understand the principle of it, that they want to make him like a pressure character, like a constant pressure character, but yeah, I think they overdid it.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get into the mechanics in a second. Nairman, your thoughts on his pretty face?
Why does he look sort of like Richard Hammond from Top Gear?
What? I guess a little bit, maybe?
That's just what I've been seeing.
The question is, why does he not?
No, his face definitely does look. It doesn't look like Ken. I think that's probably. I don't think he's so much like weird looking. I just think it's more the fact that like you look at, if you were to like just like take the Wayback Machine to a week ago when no one had seen this, and just take this like his face and just hold it up and say, does this look like Ken Masters to you? I think a lot of people would say no.
Yeah, definitely, I can agree with that. It just doesn't look like Ken that we have known for the last 20 or so years.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest point of contention people have. They've gone back with his longer hair, which is, I'm fine with that. That's kind of like a Street Fighter Alpha thing. But going back to what you're saying, Malimba, you're saying that he is the ultimate in cheese. Now, Ken, if you look at it like high-level play, Ken is not regarded as a top-tier character. He's kind of mid, maybe a little bit mid-upper tier. So, but you're convinced that he's just blatantly unfair.
Well, come on, if you have a look at him, he's basically Ryu, but faster.
True. His fireballs are slower, and he has, I think he has more recovery on some of his moves. But yes, he is, and that's what they're trying to do with Street Fighter V. Is that I think that's what they're trying to do with Street Fighter V, is that like they're trying to make him a more clear delineation from Ryu. That Ryu is like always going to be that very solid character, the jack of all trades but master of none, who is just really good in a lot of areas but doesn't excel in any one particular area. Whereas like this iteration of Ken, we've already seen people like Maximilian busting out 15-hit combos on day 1 or day 2 of being able to use him. So they're trying to really push him now as being like more differenter from Ryu. They've taken this pressure aspect and really magnified that.
With this, I mean, watching Ken and watching the other ones, is it just me, or am I noticing that it looks like Street Fighter V is going to become a more aggressive game than it ever has been before? It used to be the game of pokes, but now it seems to be more that you're about the aggressive strategy rather than the tactical one.
That could be the case. What do you think, Ned? Do you think it's looking more aggressive than previous games?
Well, at least compared to 4 anyway. I'm not sure about other iterations of Street Fighter, but it definitely looks like they want to make it a bit more aggressive, make the matches flow a bit faster, make it a bit more of a crowd pleaser rather than, say, not that EVO and other such tournaments aren't interesting to watch, it's just that sometimes they can get a little bit defensive and a bit poke heavy, so maybe a bit more interesting to actually watch compared to previous Street Fighter games.
Yeah, well, I mean, Street Fighter 3 is always regarded as the finest entry in the series. It's considered to be one of the best fighting games of all time, let alone a Street Fighter game. So I think they are trying to harken back to answer Melaman's question, yes, I do think they are trying to make it more aggressive focused. They've gone for, the word coming back from everyone who's ever played this game is saying that basically the damage output on every character is very high. That, like, even normal attacks do much more damage than they would normally, so rounds end a lot quicker. So that being the case, it obviously favors people who play aggressively rather than people who play turtle style because, you know, as we all know, in any fighting game, once you get the life lead, you can control the flow of the match.
So, the question I've got is it starting to look like Mortal Kombat 10-2? You know, where it's a far more aggressive fighting game than it ever has been really for Street Fighter in a long time.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, Mortal Kombat's different in terms of mechanics in that Mortal Kombat just has like a block button which blocks regardless of what direction your character is coming from. So there's no such thing as cross-ups in Mortal Kombat. You can't cross them up because block works universally in both directions. Mortal Kombat's more about high-low mix-ups and the fact that like you take chip damage regardless of Mortal Kombat off normals as well as specials. That said, Street Fighter 3 had the mechanic of parries as a universal trait for all characters. So because of parries, because you could just parry any attack by tapping forward when the attack landed and countering it, it allowed for matches to be much more offense heavy because it didn't matter whether you were trying to apply pressure or not, there was always the risk that you were going to be parried for it. So basically, parrying became a much more effective tactic than blocking for being able to control, you know, how your opponent was able to attack you. Yeah, so that's kind of thoughts there. You were saying before that you thought it was blatantly unfair that he got a dive kick as well. It's certainly an interesting addition to his character that now apparently when he does the EX Tatsu from the air, it will actually turn into a dive kick. So that's definitely a new addition for his character.
Why a dive kick? I don't understand. Why put a dive kick in a Shoto character?
It is very odd. Ono-san, who is the man who's developing the game, Yoshiteru Ono, said that they're going to go with a smaller roster. I mean, Ultra Street Fighter 4 has about 50 characters, I think, at the moment in its roster. And if you go back and look at Street Fighter 4 when it first came out, I think it had 24 characters when it first started. So they're saying they're going back to that smaller roster for Street Fighter 5. So that being the case, I think that if they're going to have a smaller roster and trying to have more unique characters rather than having characters who double up, which is what they've been saying despite the fact that they just added a second Shoto character, you know, they're obviously trying to give characters, people who like playing characters who have dive kicks, more options, I guess, because there won't be as many characters who have access to dive kicks, at least in the initial release.
I'd be interested to see how your more traditional characters will actually pan out, given how Ken has panned out as being such a heavily aggressive character and so different to what he used to be. Like, I'll be interested to see like what Ryu's like in contrast to him. Like, how do they do a Shoto that isn't like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ryu's Ryu from everything we've seen from the trailers and breakdowns and play that people have done so far. He does have access to a parry. He's the only character in the game, though, who currently has access to a parry. So again, that's trying to harken back to the Street Fighter 3 feel of things. Do you have any more thoughts on this now before we kind of move on to a different topic? Because I feel like we can't do too much more Street Fighter.
Not particularly, other than the fact that Ken looks weird, and I'm kind of curious to see what else the changes will be visually for other characters if they decide to actually change anyone.
Absolutely. Well said. And Juri for Street Fighter 4. That's all I'm saying. Juri or Yang. Just like, yeah, fuck Yang. Just Juri. If you just give me that and I'll be happy. God damn it.
Road to Yang.
Anyway, that said, we're going to move on to is the just out of Comic-Con is the new Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice trailer. It's actually, unlike the predecessor where it was kind of more of a teaser, it didn't really show us a whole lot other than we got a quick glimpse of Batman in his his Superman destroying armor. This is more of a much more comprehensive full trailer. We get to see a bit more of the plot. We get a lot more new characters thrown at us. So we'll start off with Dan Man. Your impressions of the trailer were?
I generally enjoyed it, but I need to see more Wonder Woman before I actually think she's going to be a good addition to the movie, and I also need to kind of figure out, besides the obvious confrontation between the two, what is this movie going to be about? Considering they seem to focus the trailer almost entirely on the Batman versus Superman thing, what are they going to do to actually fill out the movie?
Yeah, that's very true. You see very little of Wonder Woman. I think you see a couple of quick flashes of her in her armor, and one sort of quick scene with her just in an evening dress or something similar to that. But yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, what role is Wonder Woman going to play in this? What role is Lex Luthor going to play in this? Things like that. So that's kind of my thoughts regarding that. Melimba, what are your thoughts on the trailer?
Well, I mean, it's probably going to be the shortest movie all time, or should be. Look, I mean, visually very impressive, but you're right, it's very, very lacking in content. Literally, all it's really doing is going, hey, here's Batman, here's Superman, they're going to fight. Everyone else is just kind of there.
That's all you need to know, goddammit.
It's very pandering to the base. It's very, hey, we've got Batman and we've got Superman. Aren't we awesome? We'll figure out the details later.
That premise alone is enough to sell tickets. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Let's talk about this, because once again, new trailer, new discussion is bringing up the age-old topic of, can Batman actually beat Superman? Because now, Melimba, you've already hinted at what your thoughts on that are. That would be the shortest fight of all time. Nairman, I know, feels like given a sufficient amount of preparation that Batman actually can beat Superman. We'll start it off with Nairman. Your argument, go.
Basically, as long as he has time to prepare to figure out what Superman's kind of power levels and strength are, as well as having an appropriate weakness. In this case, it's obvious that they're going with kryptonite. But basically, as long as he...
Just for something different.
Yeah. But as long as he has sufficient time to prepare, he can figure out a way to actually beat Superman. Especially when Superman doesn't quite know he's coming. But we'll have to see. I mean, we'll have to see if they're going straight up Dark Knight Returns in terms of what they're going to end up doing, or if it's just sort of a homage to Dark Knight Returns in terms of the armor and the kryptonite, and everything else is kind of be different, considering we haven't really had a big event where it's just Batman versus Superman the entire way through, so this will kind of be its own weird thing going forward.
Yeah, for people who don't know, and Malmer, not sure if you know this either, Batman, Dark Knight Returns was basically a classic comic that was written and illustrated by Frank Miller that depicted in the future a older Batman and Superman going toe to toe, and Batman finally winning the outcome because he did have sufficient time to prepare and lay out a strategy and plan and whatnot for the coming fight, and eventually was able to outwit Superman. So that being the case, shortest fight of all time still?
Look, I mean, yes, definitely. Mainly because, number one, you're fighting the equivalent of a demigod. Number two, Batman doesn't kill people. So how do you consider, yes, you may stop him for a period of time, but there's a good chance that Superman is either going to outlive you, or basically, eventually, whatever you do to capture him is going to fail, and he's going to just go, yep, I'm out again. I'm still immortal. Still can't stop me.
I'm going to spoil the ending of Dark Knight Returns because the comic's been out for about 30 years, so if you haven't read it by now, that's just too freaking bad. Also, there's actually an animated version of it as well, which you really should have seen by now. So the end of it, Batman does actually defeat Superman. He does beat him, but at the end of it, he actually feigns having a heart attack and effectively dies. And basically sort of proving the point that a human was able to beat Superman before he just goes and fakes his own death so that Superman won't go and track him down. Superman goes to Batman's funeral, and when Batman's lying in his coffin, doing the whole "I took a poison that makes me look like I'm dead" kind of thing from Romeo and Juliet and every other movie that ever followed it, or book, or screenplay, or play, or anything like that, he actually, with his super hearing, actually hears Batman's heartbeat very faintly, but knowing that he was still alive, just walks off anyway. So, which kind of brings me to my point in that argument, is that I think that any fight between Batman and Superman is going to be, regardless of how much Superman wants to beat Batman, I think because he is Paragon Good Line. He is that ultra good character, the Boy Scout. He's never gone out of his way to kill people or anything like that. I think that going into a fight against Batman, he would be pulling his punches so hard because he didn't want to just turn him into a fine red mist. Which,
yes, is true, but the thing is, though, if you look at the movie doesn't completely follow the Superman Paragon line. I mean, Superman has just killed somebody in the last movie, broken their neck pretty brutally, so whether or not, the director decides to take it in that Paragon, I would never harm anyone just because, or, he's already shown propensity for being darker than what he's expected in the comics, so is it going to be I am the paragon of good, or is it going to be, hey, I'm a mixture of both?
And that's a good point. Going back to that, yeah, man. What do you think? I mean, what were your thoughts about the ending of Man of Steel? I mean, that ending where, again, I'm going to spoil this because screw it, you should have seen this movie by now. Where Superman kills Zod. I mean, there were a lot of Superman fans who were very much up in arms about that. They obviously tried to present it that he was giving Superman no choice, that he said that he would never stop, that he was going to kill these people no matter what. But at the same time, he's still just clean. He just snapped a dude's neck. I mean, your thoughts on that? Change to his character and how that plays into this movie.
It's hard to tell considering now it's only one movie. I think I kind of need to see a bit more of this movie to kind of get some context as to what they're going for with the Zod thing. Considering, I would understand it if, say, in this movie, that sort of, I think a lot of people have been thinking that maybe this sort of traumatizes Superman to say, I'm never going to do that again, it's wrong to kill, I shouldn't be that person with this sort of power, versus, the people who are upset saying, oh, why doesn't he just do that for everyone then if he's willing to take a life? So I kind of need to see a bit more tonally what they're going to do with Superman for this movie to kind of create a full judgment on that, but ultimately I'm okay with it considering Superman should, I'm not saying he should cross that line all the time, but I think if he's put in a position where he should be at least willing to think about it, considering he is the man with basically the ultimate power. He does sort of have to be put in that position in order to actually make it, dramatic. Otherwise, it's just, if he can stop him with that, he can stop everything without having to resort to that, or at least thinking about it. It's too easy then.
Yeah, so it's the old argument of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah, pretty much. It just sort of becomes I don't want to say it should become a plot device to use all the time, but it's definitely something to make you think about what is Superman going to do when he comes up against a threat. At least going forward, that he has to actually, be put in a position where maybe his morals may be compromised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's fair enough. I think that should definitely play into this movie. My thoughts on the whole, Batman vs Superman in a fight kind of thing. I mean, I am kind of with Melimber on this, as I said before, because it doesn't, to me, yes, Batman was greatest detective, I understand that. Superman probably pulling his punches, but the fact, the matter is that that's the only way that Superman can be on that level, is that even in The Dark Knight Returns, it was very clear that Superman was holding back. He kept telling Batman over and over again that he didn't want to fight, he didn't want to do this, just stop, don't want to continue, don't want to have to put me in that situation where I will kill you, kind of thing. So it was very obvious that he was holding back, because let's face it, it doesn't matter how much Batman is able to prepare, how much he's able to plan, how much he's able to, pull strings and whatnot. All Superman has to do is just grab his arm and throw him into space.
Yeah, pretty much, but I forget which comic this came from, but there is a pretty good quote basically concerning this kind of dichotomy, where Batman says, deep down I know Clark is a good person, and deep down I know I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. So that pretty much backs up my argument that, like, if the restraints were removed from Superman, that if he didn't have that good personality, if he didn't have that honor code, that it would be no contest. That Batman is relying on that as, I don't want to say a crutch, but he is exploiting that weakness.
Oh, definitely, and that's something to kind of look forward to for this movie, considering we do have that killing scene from Man of Steel, whether or not they actually want to use that as an excuse for Batman to say, I'm probably going to die in this fight, but screw it, I'm going to try anyway. We'll have to kind of see what they do with that.
Now, my concern as well with this movie is that, like, I watched the trailer, and, like, my first impression from the trailer was that, man, I really wish before they'd done that, they'd have made at least another Superman sequel, at least one more, try and build out his character some more, build out, how he fits into the world, how people are reacting to him, that he's become, obviously, that there is the Jesus simile with Superman, that is the Jesus story, essentially, of a God giving his son to the world, that kind of thing. I really wish they had more, like, given themselves more time to flesh this story out, because to me, that trailer, it just looks like there's just too much going on in there. I mean, you've got Batman, you've got Superman, obviously, you've got Wonder Woman, you've got Lex Luthor, you've got Jeremy Irons' character, whoever the hell he is. I'm assuming he's Alfred or something. You've got, and all these other characters. You got Lois Lane, you got Martha Kent. All this, there's so much going on there. I feel like this is going to turn out to be another Batman Returns. I know you're obviously going to have a lot to say about that, but before we do, Malimba, what was your impression regarding that?
Look, I mean, I wonder whether or not they're kind of afraid of doing another Spider-Man, where basically it's reboot after reboot after reboot. The stories kind of falter and then they have to go back and redo it again. So maybe they're just kind of going, look, we've already set the story, we don't want to keep going with it, so we don't think we have a strong enough character to be able to come into this storyline on his own. So let's add in franchises that we know will be popular so that, if one part of the story fails, like if his story is particularly weak, then, we've still got Superman and Wonder Woman and other people in there that will probably fill out the story a lot more than just, hey, it's Superman. Hey, he's taken on some bad guy. Hey, he wins again. Well, we're done.
Maybe, I mean, I know you're obviously a fan of Angry Joe, as am I, and, Angry Joe being probably one of the biggest Superman fanboys on the internet as we know it, his argument was for also that, there should have been another Superman movie. Do you agree with that, though? Do you think that, if, the plot was there, and, obviously Superman's got a lot of characters, there's a rich history there going back, nearly 100 years. He's got a lot of people they can put, that they could pit against him, like Brainiac or Doomsday or whatever. Do you think that if that was there, that this would work better if there was another movie, or do you think that just going straight into let's go with the launch pad for Justice League is enough?
It's hard to say, honestly, considering Man of Steel was met with very meh reactions from a lot of people, at least all things considered. So I think it's more of a way to try and springboard into other things rather than make Superman his own kind of movie franchise again. Obviously, if they're interested in doing a Man of Steel 2, considering Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder have said that they would. But to me, it's just a way to kind of springboard into other things versus being a straight-up Superman film. Now, would it be better if we had a second Superman film before this? I seriously doubt it, considering what would you really do with Superman in a sequel before this? Would you just do the whole Jesus parallels the entire movie? Because we had enough of those in Man of Steel, honestly. Would you create more big bads for him? Well, then you're kind of just leading into Batman vs. Superman again, where he wrecks a lot of shit and people are upset. I'm not sure what you could really do besides maybe establish that he's turning into the big blue Boy Scout we know that would really lead into this better. Actually,
no, I agree with that. That's pretty much what I would think. They've pretty much they've established what he is, and the franchise is not as strong as others, and when you have a look at it now, there's so many superhero movies either coming out, will be out in the future. I mean, you've seen their lineup for the next bloody 10 years. So, yeah, I mean, the franchise wasn't that good to start with, so why not dovetail it with stuff is going to be popular?
I mean, I don't know, I feel like I'm in the minority here. I really like Man of Steel. I mean, full disclosure, I am a very big fan of Zack Snyder. I think he's probably the best director working in the industry at the moment for action movies. I think that his ability to convey visual spectacle is just on... there's no one else that can beat that. I mean, Michael Bay comes close, but obviously he's a very different style, and a lot of people don't like him either. But I thought it was a great movie. I thought that it worked very well. So, yeah, I guess, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know. Final thoughts, both of you?
Oh no, I certainly enjoyed Man of Steel as well. I'm just saying that the general reaction was kind of meh by the general populace, considering it didn't do anywhere near as well as, say, Avengers did, which was kind of what they were hoping to at least get close to. But, my final thoughts about the trailer are, it still looks good. I'm still excited for it, being the big DC nerd that I am, but I still have some worry. I'm still kind of iffy on a few details, but I'm still looking forward to it. I'm definitely going to see it basically as soon as I can once it comes out. We'll have to see when I can actually get tickets, once they actually, put those on pre-order or whatever. But it's just one of those I still have some reservations for. I need to see a bit more before I can make a solid, this movie's going to be great opinion.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much the same. I mean, I'm more of a wait and see rather than a, oh my god, I'm happy for this to come out. Let's see what they do with it first before we get too judgmental on it.
Okay, fair enough. Moving to our third topic, you want to drive this one, Malimba. You're basically just talking about the state of early access and beta access for games that's becoming more and more of a thing in the industry. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I was perusing being the PC Master Race person on this podcast, I was perusing the Steam front page the other day, and literally all I got out of the Steam front page was early access, early access, early access, hey beta, early access, early access, hey pay us money for early access. It seems to be something that is coming up. I mean, I play a lot of early access games. I've got Space Engineers, which is probably I've spent over 700 hours on. And as a game model, I think early access can be really great. As a business model, it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent where you get people who have, hey, I've got a framework of a game, and we're just going to push it out and get as much money as we possibly can. Which seems now, if you have a look at, a lot of AAA console games, where now you're pre-ordering to get into betas, or they're now pushing the beta side and the pre-order side much, much more than they were before. So, are we looking at to me, it seems like now we're running into a culture of get it out there, patch it later kind of deal, which is really starting to piss me off, especially from a PC point of view, where even though Steam does have a lot of games in it, a lot of those games now seem to be a kind of, hey look, it's early access, most of it's broken, good luck with that.
Okay. What do you think about this now, man? Do you think that this is becoming a more prevalent thing within the industry, that companies looking to try and not only obviously, recover some of that financing that they've spent on development, but lock in a lot of people for for the final purchase? That this is another step in, first of all you get the early access, and then once you get the early access, then you get the pre-order bonuses, and once you get the pre-order bonuses, then you get the season pass, and this is this whole creep of the business model beyond what was originally just you would just buy a game and that was it.
I can definitely understand the frustration there. It has to, like a lot of things, it just has to be done right. I can definitely see a lot of complaints about companies who will just release kind of a demo or kind of a alpha build and say, hey, give us money for this. That can be annoying. I just wonder where these companies are coming from, considering I know a good number of them are using it as basically demo testing or beta testing to say, hey, here's a game you may be interested in, why don't you try it out and then report to us anything we can actually do better. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to for these sorts of beta access and early access sort of things, as a way to fix what's coming up versus being a way to try and gouge people of money. But then again, I'm kind of being an optimist on this. Rare for me, I know.
I was going to say, that doesn't appear to be, though, at least what I'm seeing. A lot of what I'm seeing at the moment, especially around early access games, is they're basically pushing them out and saying, hey, it's alpha, anything that's broken is because it's alpha. And then a lot of these games I'm seeing 6-12 months down the track, they're still in alpha, whereas in a traditional sense that game would no longer be an alpha or even beta at that point. I mean, it shouldn't be. If you're spending a year on a released game in alpha, there's probably a good chance you should have never released the game in its current state at all.
That's definitely understandable. It's just one of those things where I don't know who's working on those sorts of things. You kind of have to take it on a developer by developer case, to me, versus blaming an entire process on it. It's just one of those, I don't think the process is bad as the people who are using it are bad.
I mean, in fact, I can jump in here. I think that it depends on the developer and it depends on their game. I think that for small developers who don't have teams of beta testers that are working full time, I think early access is a great way for them to be able to beta test their game, so we don't get another Gary's incident or anything like that. I think that, however, when you get big publishers like EA doing early access for Battlefield Hardline or other games like H1Z1 from Sony Online, things like that, I think that is crossing a line, because it'd be one thing if you were just if it was like, you know, you're given free access. I mean, you know, I say back in the day, and it's like freaking 5 or 6 years ago, you know, you could get free access to an online beta, and you know, and that was the agreement, that you'll get free access to a game, but in exchange you would help report bugs and things like that, and that was a great arrangement. But nowadays they're asking us to pay for that privilege, and I think that is crossing a line.
To me, it's like, well, they're exploiting the newer gamers who aren't used to that principle. You know, they're getting them in, especially with betas. I mean, Street Fighter V, pay to get beta access. Wait, what? You know, that used to be a privilege. You know, you were like, hey, I just got into the beta, and now it's like, hey, I paid a bunch of money and they gave me the beta.
Yeah, and look, and to be fair, at least not all companies are doing that. I got access to the Gears of War, the re-release of it, the remake on Xbox One. I got free access to that after E3. Great, you know, it was only one map, but it was just there to test it online. Fine, and I was totally happy with that. You can, for Street Fighter V, you can apply for access to the beta, which is what I've done. And apparently they're going to notify me whether they let me get in or not. But if you pre-order the game, which is this is a game which is not going to be out for, I think, at least 6 months. It's going to be sometime around the end of the year. I don't know if they've put a specific date on it yet. You'll get guaranteed access to the beta, and not just one beta. They've just announced there's going to be 3 phases to the beta. And do they need to, like, you know, test the netcode? Absolutely. I mean, you know, a fighting game lives and dies on its netcode. But, you know, again, should we have to pay for that privilege? I don't think so. I think that is just... I know that, you know, I appreciate that developers are in a hard place, because, you know, developing AAA games costs a lot of money these days. It's not like the old days of, like, the original Mortal Kombat that was developed by 6 people, you know, in someone's basement, or I don't know if it was someone's basement, but it was 6 people. You know, it's just, you know, they do have a lot of overheads, but, you know, it's just like, I amongst the people who are getting frustrated that we're being just hit at every single opportunity for, you know, that they can get us to pay money for something.
Yeah, so to me, it's basically just how many paywalls can we stick up between the initial beta release and the actual release of the game, and then how many paywalls can we put on after that? It stopped being about, you know, it's a very old person's thought of it, but it stopped being about, you know, it used to be that early access and alpha access and beta access, these were things that you would brag about. It's like, hey, I got into the beta of this, or hey, I'm in down on the ground floor in the alpha of that. Whereas now they've kind of gone, we see a demand there. We know people love the idea of being in on a beta. How about we charge money for that? Because, you know, it's a need. So let's put a paywall in there so that not only do they have the quote-unquote bragging rights, but we make a bunch of money out of it as well.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, this is not a problem which happens so much with larger developers, but certainly with the smaller ones, that, okay, you make your game up to the alpha stage, you allow early access for it, so you get that big cash flow. All of a sudden, you get that big injection of cash, and that's kind of like you've almost, it's almost like the developers blow their load too early, because they get all the money, and now all those people who have paid for early access are now going to get access to the full version of the game anyway. So what incentives is there for them to actually go ahead and finish the game? As you said, you get those situations where there are games that are in early access for 6 months, or a year, or for 18 months, well past any kind of use-by date that they should have had for not being able to get out of alpha.
H1Z1 that you described, perfect example. Rust, another perfect example of big games that had a bunch of money that came in for their early access, and then they kind of spent the money and went, well, game's not finished yet, guys. Good luck with that.
Any thoughts on that? No, I'm getting Malmer and Nairman confused. Nairman, any thoughts?
Not particularly, just that I can understand where everyone's coming from with this. I just want to look at it as a way to hopefully make games better, but unfortunately the companies that will be probably aren't going to use it that way.
Yeah, I just, like, I live with the fear that it's going to get, like, that eventually, if we keep allowing this creep, and I know this is just me completely speculating, and I know this is me fear-mongering, but I do live with the fear that we're going to eventually, AAA titles are going to turn into mobile games. That you're going to go out, you're going to pay for Metal Gear Solid 6, the headless chicken, and you'll be playing that game, and you'll get like 2 or 3 hours into it, and it'll come up with a message saying that, oh no, Snake has run out of energy. Wait 3 hours for him to sleep, or pay now for him to get a supply drop. You know, something like that. I have nightmares about this. I really do. And I think that if we allow this kind of creep to continue, it may eventually get to that, and I don't want it to.
Well, knowing Konami, it may just very well, but...
Yeah.
I can see that you need a box. Pay $5.95 now, and you will get the box.
That's it, yeah. Snake has alerted the enemy to his presence. Pay $2 right now to have a box delivered by a supply drop. You know, something like that. It's just, that's why we don't want to encourage this kind of behavior from developers. I guess that's the ground floor, the bottom line where the buck stops. Alright, well that dovetails nicely into our final topic, which will probably be shorter because none of us actually, I don't think any of us actually play Call of Duty, do we? I've flirted briefly with Advanced Warfare, but as soon as I found out that it was getting taken down by YouTube, I stopped playing it. Either of you guys?
The last Call of Duty I played was Modern Warfare 2.
Okay.
Yeah, same, and I didn't play that very much either.
Yeah, we I think the last time we played Call of Duty was actually Call of Duty 2. It wasn't even Modern Warfare, was it? Where we were doing like the whole multiplayer sniper showdown thing.
Ah, yes, those were the days. Back when it was really, really crappy graphics and actual gameplay was involved.
Yeah, that's how old Malmer and I actually are. We actually used to play Call of Duty 2, which was the one set back in the World War II. We would just play one-on-one. We'd limit ourselves to sniper rifles, and we would just run around the map trying to snipe each other. Then that's how we amused ourselves.
Well, at least you had some way to play the game.
That's it. So, but what's interesting about this is that Call of Duty Black Ops 3, or as I like to call it, BLOPS, has announced that they're going to that the zombie mode coming with Call of Duty Black Ops 3 is going to be set in the I think it looks like 1930s, 1940s. It's going to have Jeff Goldblum with a really crazy French accent, and basically the whole thing looks like it's going to be BioShock, essentially.
And it's not going to tie into the story or the multiplayer whatsoever.
Yeah, so and absolutely true, but this kind of comes back to our previous discussion of, not only have the game's not even out yet. The game won't come out until November, and they're already touting like the day one DLC for it. I'm assuming that this won't come packaged with the game because it never has up until now. Every other, zombie mode has always been an external DLC. So not only 6 months prior to the game's release are they saying like, pre-order now, get access to this shit, but also pre-order now and get access to the online beta.
See, once again, it comes straight back to the argument of we're going to push this stuff out. I mean, why a zombie mode? I get it, they had it in a previous Black Ops, but why not something else other than a zombie mode? Haven't zombies already been done pretty much haha to death?
Yeah, I think that every Call of Duty from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 has had a zombie mode, I think. Certainly a lot of them have. I think at this point it's a running joke. I think that's why they continue to do it. And as I said, I mean, they're just, it looks like BioShock, they've got a gumball machine, which gives you special powers and shit, like, I saw some weird, like, Japanese tentacle stuff going on there, so I don't know what the fuck that is, but that was something, and yeah, it's just like, it just looks like that, so, I don't know, yeah, man?
Not much to say other than it's obviously just a mode to try and get people interested in the game that they're announcing now, because we all knew it was coming, because, again, it is kind of an ongoing joke. The thing is, it's just kind of a way to advertise the game before the game comes out, saying, hey, we have the zombie mode, or hey, we added this new cool weapon that they're going to probably show off, say, next month for multiplayer or something. It's just a way to keep advertising the game before it comes out to me at this point.
And which is fine, but I mean, like, let's take the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood example. That was a game which had a lot of advertising building up to it. It had that pre-order bonus of like, that was the. It was almost a new horse armor that if you pre-ordered Assassin's Creed, you would get pants that would boost your stats and crap like that. And that turned into a total freaking train wreck on the release. So I mean, is it alright for companies to be able to spruik their games and spruik their DLC 6 months out and pay 6 months before this fucking thing even hits the shelves, and you'll get access to the beta, get access to this content, and when we've had this problem and we've discussed it many times in podcasts in the past where this shit may just be broken on release.
I mean, I can definitely understand that. It just becomes, again, a way to advertise at this point. I don't think people are paying much attention to it at this point, other than maybe the gaming news sites who kind of have to play on this sort of thing, at least to try and keep views up.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts on that one, Malma?
I think we've identified it. Horse armor. That's where this all started. God damn you.
Horse armor was patient zero.
It must have been. Because pretty much after horse armor, everyone kept doing it.
Everything went to hell after that. Fair enough. Any final topics from you guys? I know personally there's some news about the Lizard Squad, the group of hackers that were most infamous for being the real-time modern-day Scrooges of the world by taking down both the Xbox Live and the PSN network on Christmas Day. They recently just went after the director of Sony Online Entertainment, which is now known as Daybreak. I think it's Daybreak Entertainment. The developers of H1Z1 and PlanetSide 2. The CEO was threatening to take those guys down and come after them after one of their identities was released and given a sentence in court. Very next day after he made those threats, they got hit with another DDoS attack. Any thoughts on that?
Good luck.
Yeah, ultimately it's kind of a crapshoot either way. So it's just kind of two sides throwing tomatoes at each other, and no one really wins in this situation.
Pretty much. I mean, personally, God, I'm probably gonna get DDoS for saying this, but I mean, is DDoS really that much of a threat? I mean, yes, it's a pain in the ass, it takes down your servers and whatnot, but I mean, it doesn't prove anything. It just proves that you have access to a botnet.
Yeah, pretty much at this point. I don't see it being as the biggest threat in the world, although dare I say that, but it's still something to take seriously, and definitely something you don't want to have happen to you, considering how much of a pain it can be.
Yes, we're picking a hornet's nest here as we speak, so let's move on from that. Anything else from you, Melinda, or any other thoughts or topics you wanted to quickly fire off?
Do either of you guys actually read Reddit at all and want to weigh in on the current controversy, which I imagine has already been done to death, but the CEO of Reddit has now stepped down after all the pressure? Previously kind of just went, oh yeah, sorry about that, but now has actually stepped down as the CEO of Reddit.
I heard briefly about that, that there's a lot of social justice warriors going on about how she fired someone without explanation for it, and it kind of just steamrolled from there.
Well, they locked very popular Reddit, the moderators locked very popular Reddit posts, basically locking Reddit out of a lot of their large hit posts in protest for them firing, I believe it was the head of AMA, the person who organises all the Ask Me Anythings, and basically the Reddit CEO went, yeah, we had to do that, we had to fire her, and there was no real apology or explanation or anything, but just recently I've read that she's actually stepped down as CEO of Reddit, from the pressure. So I mean, is this kind of the social justice warrior thing that you're saying, that, everyone's all up in arms and how could they be and all that sort of thing? Or is it something, are we getting more power in that regard, where if we get into a situation we don't like, does the mob now have the power to just turn around and make a CEO's life hell until they step down?
That depends. Do you feel that it was warranted that people did kind of organize this response? Do you feel that she basically earned that, or do you think that this is another case of a bunch of nerds on the internet saying, "Oh, we can't allow women to be in power. Let's show her who's boss"?
Oh, there was certainly a whole bunch of misogyny about it, but look, I mean, the problem is we don't really know the whole reasoning behind why they fired this woman in the first place. The CEO of Reddit is a woman as well, so you can't really call gender bias on that one. But, we don't really know why she was fired in the first place. And then to basically turn and go, well, we fired her, that's nice, yeah. I can understand from a business point of view if you have to do that sort of thing, but to me, locking all the posts and kind of having that attitude of, oh yeah, we'll stand behind you by making everybody else's life inconvenient, just seems to be a total overreaction. And then, you've now cost the CEO their job. Who do they get in there to do that job after that? Who would want to do that job after that?
I don't know, good question. Has he got a dog in this race there, Matt?
Not particularly. I only kind of lurk on Reddit, not so much do anything, but I do like some of the funny posts or whatever, just when I'm kind of killing time. But I heard that the original CEO, the guy who founded the site, is actually taking over again now.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I don't really have any thoughts on this because I don't really go to Reddit that often. I kind of just go there if I'm just really bored looking to kill time, or looking to maybe show off a Street Fighter video that I just made or something like that. I just hope that this kind of thing can be dangerous. I know that, like, as a previous, you used to be really into EVE Online, Melimba, and there was an incident that was very similar to that in EVE Online, where, again, going back to talking about DLC and, needless things there was the whole, a couple of years ago, there was the whole Monocle Gate issue, where, for people who don't know, the people who developed EVE Online released a piece of DLC, which was a monocle for your character. Didn't do anything, it was just a monocle, it was the new horse armor, and people it was like such an extraordinary price for it, that people got up in arms, and they protested by all getting together and attacking a station that was supposed to be undestroyable, and it caused like such a, in terms of real world repercussions, it caused a lot of people to lose their jobs. So, I mean, yeah, it's certainly, it's great that we have this kind of power, but at the same time, are we wielding it properly?
Yeah. Are we using it correctly, or are we using it as a hammer when we don't get our way?
Exactly, yeah. So I think that it's that's a whole other discussion. We can go on for another half hour about that sort of thing. So we might leave that for another podcast. If you guys want to hear more thoughts about that, then let us know in the comments below that you're interested to hear this conversation play out. But we should probably wrap things up now. So, Mr. Nairman, thank you very much for joining us. Same with you, Mr. Melimba. Mr. Nair, where can they find you on the interwebs if they want to see your smiling face?
You can find me on Twitter at NairmanBSC, or you can find me on the YouTube channel I do a lot of work on for Brain Scratch Comms.
Excellent. Mr. Melimba, people can find you at where?
They can find me currently on Twitter at Malimber01. I am actually using that Twitter account now, so definitely hit me up. I don't have a YouTube channel yet, but I am working on that.
Thank you very much, and yes, I encourage people to also hit him up as well. He hasn't posted anything yet that I've seen, so fire all your questions at him, and he will answer all of them for you. I'm going to make that a thing now, that he is going to be dragged into this social media thing, kicking and screaming. So thanks for you guys much. God damn it! Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I'm dyslexic. I don't know what I'm saying, so I'm gonna get out of here. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.